NERDSoul.
Why are you a black man in love? Hey y'all. Thank you so much for joining us once again for Black Together, a walk in her shoes here on NERDSoul. I am Lisa, known as Lady Lisa to some of you, and I am joined as usual by my sister cousin, former alleged partner in crime. I will deny it if you ask. Cletus to my Cleophas, Kim, aka Madam Buddaphlai. Say hello.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right. And before we go any further, we'd like to thank NERDSoul for allowing us to be on his platform. Be sure to check out me, Lady Lisa, and NERDSoul on Tuesdays for the original Black Together. The Four Horsemen go on edit on Wednesdays for Beats Vibes Life, and NERDSoul and I together again on Friday nights for Loungin'. Again, check that all out on ThatNERDSoul.com. Now, what's in our shoebox today?
Today we have a nude-colored Capezio tap dancing shoe with a velveteen applique because we are talking about failed paternity tests, accountability for claiming the wrong father, and men's rights for visitation and custody.
Somebody just tapped on out the room.
Cha 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 cha.
Kickball change. Right on out the room. Okay. So, this is going to be, somebody's toes is going to hurt after this. But I think it's a necessary conversation. Yes. I think, sometimes jokes are made about it. It's talked about, you hear men kind of, shaking their head and in frustration about what they go through with their quote, baby mama. You hear women, fussing about their baby daddy, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, we need to talk about this because this has become a norm in our culture and it should not be a norm.
Right.
Relationships don't work out. Everybody doesn't, get married, then have, 2.5 kids. Right. But just because the relationship didn't work out doesn't mean there has to be contention. And you don't get to choose who your baby's father is after you've gotten pregnant.
Right.
That's how it works. So we're going to talk about all of that and a lot more. So let's start with posing this question. What is a Black man's role in raising children? What do you think?
I think his job is to protect, to lead, to provide for, to guide, even nurture. Even though I think that there's a difference in the way that a mother nurtures and a father nurtures, but, right. It's still valid. It's still legitimate. Yeah. Support, I think they are the representation of strength from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just there's just so many, there's just so, it's too much to actually express, what I mean? Because some things are tangible where you can actually pinpoint it, see it, identify it, and some things are more from an energetic perspective.
Yeah, just their presence.
Yeah.
A lot of, not to say they can just, show up and sit in a chair and be like, all right, it's been 18 years, I'm gone. Just to be like, I was there. Right. But I get what you're saying. Like just their energy, you operate differently as a child when you know your daddy's there. That's the whole reason why, mom can be like, wait till your daddy gets home. And you're
Right.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, she uses that as leverage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the dad, I think he's like the superhero. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He's the
Yeah.
superhero. Even though, in our society, moms get all the kudos and dads are
Mm.
kind of, tossed to the side and they get a little raggedy tie on Father's Day or
Yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah.
the dads are the superheroes to, to the
Yeah.
children. They're that guardian, the guardian
Yeah.
of the galaxy.
It's true. And I mean, I have some really great, memories of, spending time with my dad when I was little.
Hmm.
I remember he would like to, work on his car. He had this big, long black Cadoba. And it was like a playhouse to me because I was little and this car
Hmm.
was huge.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I would sit in the back seat and play while he did whatever he was doing, working on the car in the driveway, just because I wanted to be with him. I had
Yeah.
no idea what he was doing. I could care less about the car. I just wanted to be with him and in his
Yeah.
presence. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just remember that so well, and helping me ride my bike and picking me up when I fell and I cried, and running him to get, change for the ice cream truck. Just all those like really fantastic memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the nostalgia.
Yeah. So, um, next question. Do we as Black women value Black fathers? That's a heavy question.
Generally speaking, I would say no, you
Mm,
know, and I think that is shown in how we are quick to dismiss or discard a father in the event of a breakdown in a relationship.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Or perhaps the man is involved in a new relationship,
Mm-hmm.
or um, they are unable to control that man's movement, and so as a means to try to gain control over it, they then play hide and seek with the child.
Mm, yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that generally speaking, Black women are quick to say, I can do it all by myself. I don't need a
Mm,
man. My mama did it, so I can do it.
mm-hmm.
They gonna be just fine, and all of that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, unfortunately, I agree. Um, yeah, because it's, this whole thing of I can do it by myself. I don't need a man. It just makes me cringe because nobody's saying you're going to fall apart and implode if you don't have a man. That's not what anyone's saying. But in terms of a father, and especially in terms of a father for your child, that's very much needed. You know, um, and I think a lot of women look at it as I don't need him to provide monetarily. Well, there's a
Right.
whole lot else to
Right.
consider besides that. You
Hmm.
know, you may be able to, you know, get the bacon, bring it home, fry it up in the pan, whatever. But
Right.
there's certain, like you talked about, energy. There's certain energy that a man gives, that a father gives,
Hmm.
that you cannot give your daughter who needs that from her daddy, and you
Hmm.
cannot give your son who needs that from his dad.
Yeah.
You just can't. So if you've ever been able to look in a child's face and see how they light up when they see their mom and how they
Right.
light up when they see their dad,
Hmm.
the regard that they have for each one, just looking at the relationship that my son has with his dad, I mean, it is just amazing. I love it. I can't explain how it feels, but just the way that little boy looks at his dad, the
Hmm.
way he emulates everything that he does. Everything. And it's like, it's his joy to have his dad to look up to guide him, to be his example. And I'm sorry, moms just can't be that. I'm not saying that moms can't raise a child on her own. Right. I'm just saying it's not ideal. And right. I'm going to dare to say, and you can jump in on this because I know but I will dare to say that a woman can raise boys to be fantastic human beings, but she will never be able to teach him how to be a man.
100%. 100%. As you know, I have 4 boys, and I'll just give an example because, I know that this is a sore subject for a lot of single mothers. And, when my children, well, I'm a newlywed, but, my children, I raised them, as a single mother, and we get very defensive whenever any topic is brought up about any shortcoming that we may have, because it is a hard job raising children, but the thing of it is that mentioning a shortcoming or mentioning how a child suffers by not having 2 parents is not a dig at the mother.
Right.
It's simply stating that this is how we were designed. We were designed to have masculine and feminine energy poured into us. And if that doesn't happen, then there's going to be a shift. Adjustments are going to have to be made for that individual that had that shortcoming.
Yeah.
But what I was going to share is one of my children, when he was young, when he started kindergarten, he kept peeing in his pants in kindergarten. And it was like, what's going on here? Because he's been potty trained for a very long time. He doesn't have accidents at home. What exactly is happening at school that, he would wet his pants? And what I realized after maybe a week or so is that at school, he had on a belt. And because I'm not a man and I don't have what men have, I didn't know to tell him, you can unzip your pants and pee without unbuckling your belt. You see what I'm saying? Because that's not my point of reference.
Right.
You understand? So he's in the bathroom by himself at 5 trying to take his belt off because he's thinking he has to pull his pants all the way down because that's what I've shown him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. What do I know about pants standing up? I don't know anything about that. You know what I mean? And so when I realized what was actually happening, it was just like, oh my God. It's those types of things, those are the types of things that I would urge single mothers to think about when they feel defensive or attacked whenever they hear that, we aren't the father. You know what I mean? We are the mothers, and we give them what we can give them based upon our own perspective. And there's, that's just one small thing. But there are countless things in the male experience that we don't know anything about, that we can't speak into that,
Yeah, absolutely. And that, and that's just a thing from a very basic logistical, point of view that who would have ever thought of that?
Right.
Except for me.
Exactly.
And it's like, poor baby, for no other reason than mommy didn't tell me. But yeah, it's so true. And, something I just now thought of is like, I don't care who like it. I'm going to say it, and I'm sure I'll say it many times again. When Father's Day comes, shut up.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Not Happy Father's Day to you, mama.
Right.
Okay. No,
Right.
it's Happy
Right.
Mother's Day on Mother's Day.
Exactly.
That's it.
100%. Yeah, you know how I feel about that. I get really, really agitated. And I'm no expert on single motherhood by a long shot. You know what I mean? My oldest is 25, my youngest is 18. I put my time in
Well,
100%,
I would say that
but
you are such an expert that the Lord keeps bringing children into your life.
indeed, indeed.
Okay.
Indeed, indeed. That is the truth.
Like who can
You know.
do this? I know.
That is so true. But I would never be so arrogant to think that I am equipped with what God gave a man
Yeah.
to to nurture a child with, because
Yeah.
that's really what it is. It comes from a place of like arrogance and ego. Like
Mm.
you want to be placed on a pedestal because you're taking care of your child the way that you're supposed to take care of your child.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not it's a co-parenting situation, you may play a role in, of responsibility in that too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, first of all, you picked him, right?
Mm.
After you picked him, you laid with him, you decided that you didn't have to be cautious,
Mm.
and you procreated with this person. And
Yep.
then once you procreated with this person, you decided that having some type of mutual understanding to co-parent wasn't worth the time, effort, and energy for you guys to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It takes two people to get along, and it takes two people to fight.
It's true. It's true. And, it's something I like to hear. I like to watch court shows. And, sometimes the judge, you have two, exes, and, judge will say, well, you picked them. You want to come
Right?
here and complain and have all of these, things that you want and want me to give you money back and stuff. Y'all played house and you picked them. So what you want me to do?
Right.
And that's what it comes down to. And it's, I think a lot of times is people don't take the time to get to know each other,
Hmm.
and you get all caught up in whatever you love about each other physically and very surface things,
Hmm.
and then next thing you know, you've created a child with this person, and you can name 15 million things you hate about them, or, where before you couldn't think of one, you
That's
know,
real.
and it's like what happened was you didn't take the time to get to know what was important about this
Right.
person.
Right.
Does he
Or
hold a job?
right.
Does he have other children? If so, does he take care of those children? Does he see
Hmm.
those children? Does he respect their mother? You
Hmm.
know, how does he treat other women in general? Just
Right.
all of these things, that need to be taken into consideration. And then after you haven't made an informed decision about who you're going to procreate with,
Hmm.
then all of a sudden he trifling, he ain't this, he ain't that. Well, you picked him. So
Right.
explain to me your rationality in picking somebody who's trifling.
But
That's all
no,
I'm saying.
see, because black women can't be wrong about anything, Lisa. So it has to be the man's fault.
Hmm.
We can't be held accountable for anything that we do wrong. So it has to be the man's fault. Come on. You
Well,
didn't you
we
didn't
are
get that
magic
memo?
after all. We are magic.
Right. Right. And I mean,
Bibbity boppity boo. I'm right.
right. Right. It's
Yeah.
just it blows my mind sometimes how there's this blanket belief, or this um thought process that black women don't have to be held accountable for specific behaviors simply because of their experiences as a black woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, because you are a single mother and you're taking care of these children, and taking care of those children is difficult, doesn't give you a pass for poor behavior.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you a pass to treat their father like trash. It doesn't give you a pass to use the children as pawns. It doesn't give you a pass to fill the children with mean, hateful information to try to turn them against their father, because that's child abuse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's child abuse. So, you know, we have to be able to get our emotions and our behavior in check.
Yeah.
And it be that, you know what I mean? And we should be able to call each other to the carpet and say, hey, sister girl, beloved, you know, this is what I see, and your children are going to be negatively impacted by this. And so we need to figure out a way to turn this around so that the children can be, you know, as productive and as emotionally developed members of society as possible.
Yeah, because in doing that, that is to me a better way of being able to say, I'm doing this on my own. Okay, so that is doing it on your own, is saying, this is what I have, right? And this is what I'm going to do with it. Instead of being bitter and angry and having all this animosity, I'm going to turn that around and be as positive as I possibly can. And I want to say this before we go any further, because I can like feel it coming. We are not bashing Black women. We are not self-hating. You know, we don't have, you know, issues where we don't have self-confidence and we don't love Black women. Right. No, not at all. For me, there is power that I found in being able to sit back and say, I was wrong in this. I didn't handle this the right way. And what do I need to do going further? Or, you know what? I made some horrible choices, not to dismiss what he did.
Right.
But I made some choices. I can't do anything about what he did. I can't do anything with that. But I can do something with my choices. And there's actual power in that, because you're taking away from someone else's control. Because when you want to sit back and always complain about what somebody else did to you, you're inadvertently saying you have that much control over me.
Right.
But when you sit back and say, you know what, this is what I did wrong. I didn't take the time to get to know him. I came at him wrong. I allowed him to talk to me this way. Whatever it is, you are taking control and going forward, making changes to make yourself better and make the situation better and just make overall better choices. So, you know, this is about posing questions to other Black women for us to really think about. You know, it's not that we're trying to pose questions and say this is what the answer is. It's about us having a conversation and posing questions, you know, for you to kind of really think about. And some of it might feel like, you know, you have to turn around and point at yourself and look at you. But yeah. That's kind of what it is.
Self-reflection is a very powerful tool. And, you know, we can't say that Black Lives Matter only in the context of police brutality.
Yeah.
If Black Lives Matter, then that means Black Lives Matter. So that means emotional well-being, psychological well-being, you know what I mean? Economic status, like across the board.
Yeah.
We are trying to protect Black life. And so in saying that, if there's something that's going on that is damaging to the psyche of a Black child, you know, or the psyche of a Black man or woman, we have a responsibility to call it to the carpet in love, so that changes can be made. You know, we have to rise as a people. You know, if it's just about individual success, then we're going to continue being treated the way that we're being treated on the larger scale. We have to raise our condition as a people. And if we're not willing to talk about the things that the problems that we have or the issues that we have within our own community, if we can't even do that, then how are we ever expected to progress? You know, are we so helpless that we have to wait on the benevolence of the people in power to hand us crumbs from the table? Or are we going to assert ourselves and say, listen, this is how we can be better in our own experience, and then move forward in requiring more? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Another question I wanted to pose, just kind of, it's really a thought-provoking question, not a question to just really answer one way or the other, but do we see Black fathers as a need, a want, a nice bonus, or an obstacle?
That varies day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute.
Yeah. But I just, that's something that came to me. It was like, I think that's something for us as Black women to really ponder, and really think about, how do you really truly feel about that, and then why?
Yeah.
Because I know there are some women that operate in thinking that the father of their child is an obstacle.
Right.
And that's, yeah, that's a rough.
This is my baby.
Yeah.
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 Uh-huh.
Yeah. So is there anything else you wanted to touch on in terms of that?
As far as the position of fatherhood, there was something, but I forgot what it was. So
okay, just jump
it'll
in.
probably come back later on. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my luggage. So that actually carries us to the next part. So, do mothers feel we have more, quote, rights to our children than fathers have? And if so, why?
Yes. And I think part of the reason why is because society supports that, whether it's custody, custody typically, or more often than not, the mother is given custody unless she's found to be unfit. Fathers, generally speaking, have to really fight for custody of their children. And, the same with like child support and stuff like that. And so if you have a system backing you in reckless behavior, then you're going to continue to be reckless. And if you are intentionally, deliberately withholding your children from their father, I'm going to be very clear, that is abuse.
Yeah.
And we are not talking about if, the father is like strung out on drugs or, is dangerous in some kind of way. We're not talking about that. So if the father is not, or I should say the non-custodial parent, if the non-custodial parent is not emotionally and psychologically harmful to the child, you should not be withholding access to that child for any reason, or that is abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's selfish because, it has to do with your issues with them and whatever feelings and emotions you have. And, I guess I have never been in this situation, but I'm assuming that just has to be difficult, to separate your emotions in terms of your relationship with your ex, from your emotions and feelings about your child's relationship with them. Mm-hmm. You know, I can understand, I guess, how it can be, I don't know, it can be kind of complicated, but you have to get to a place where it's like, I can't do this to my baby, let alone to him or her, you know, their mother or father. But yeah, you know, I agree that it's always just been this unspoken attitude that mothers have more right to their children. And I'll be honest, it's something I try to check myself on. You know, it's just, you know, just in different little instances, I try to check myself on it because it's like, well, I don't have any more right to, you know, decide this or that, you know, than his dad does. You know, that kind of thing. And I've done research, and there's nothing that states that moms have any more right legally. But what's interesting is that going further, everything else that happens legally in court, in different decisions, it seems that the legal system is biased in terms of a mother's rights when it comes to custody, when it comes to child support, when it even comes to her trying to decide after the child is born who the daddy is.
Right.
Like,
you are not the father.
I'm 1,000% sure. No, you don't.
Look at his eyes. Look at his nose, Maury. Look at his ears. Look at his hairline.
Oh my God. Yeah. Just utter and absolute foolishness.
It is. And, you know, okay. So I want to make sure that I express this correctly.
Tap it out. Tap it out.
So, as women in this country, we have the right to decide if we are going to follow through with the pregnancy, if we're going to terminate a pregnancy, if we're going to give a child up for adoption, right? So we have those three options when we become pregnant. And in those three options, at no point do we have to discuss with the father what it is that we're going to do. Yeah. So we can decide to abort their child without their consent. We can decide to give their child up for adoption. And actually, they just recently started playing this commercial about if you are expecting a child and the mother is considering adoption, there's some kind of thing that you can sign up for within a certain amount of months of the baby being born to basically be able to claim your rights as the father to keep the child from being put up for adoption.
And that's
the
awesome.
mother. And I think that's awesome, but at the same time, it's horrible that all these years later, this is now being put into play.
Yeah.
And it's like the men don't matter at all. Yeah. But if a man says, listen, I told you that I didn't want a child, and now you're pregnant, and you don't want to terminate the pregnancy, I want to forfeit my rights as a father. Even if they forfeit their rights, they're still financially obligated. So, not to say that forfeiting your rights is the way to go either, but I'm just saying that it's not a fair playing field, because the woman can make all of these decisions in regards to whether the child exists or not. And the man just has to deal with whatever the decision is that the woman makes.
You know, I'm gonna tell you though, I think all of that, and I don't know, I have to look it up. I don't know if that's different if the mother and the father are married. That would be interesting to see if it's different. If he has more rights, if they are married. I want to say that probably is so.
Yeah,
but
probably.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, because at the same time, if you have not even committed to each other,
right,
it would seem, I don't know, it's a weird situation anyway, but it would seem weird having him have this input when you guys aren't together, because it's like in that instance you're operating as a couple, but then at the same time you're having a child. I don't know, it's a mishmash. And
it
I think
is because
that's what's made all of these issues, is because you have all of these children born out of not even relationships. It's just situationships.
right. Ding.
You know?
It's true. The law has not caught up with
The foolishness.
where we are socially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we have I don't even necessarily want to consider it evolution, because it's not necessarily a good thing. But for the sake of not having another word to use,
Yeah.
we have evolved as a society in terms of free sexuality and all of that kind of stuff. And so with that comes the potential for more children being born outside of wedlock.
Yeah.
And laws have not been changed or updated to reflect where we are socially.
Yeah.
So, if there are less people getting married, there are less people staying married, then we need to figure out what we need to do legally to make sure that the kids are taken care of in that whole situation, and not in a punitive way, So, which
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you, has the Black woman weaponized child support?
I want to think before I answer this, but I'm gonna say yes. I say yes to that. Unfortunately, yes. I think in situations where a woman feels like that's all the leverage she has to hurt the father of her child. In maybe situations where it's like she knows he doesn't have it or whatever it is, and then she justifies or uses that to justify not letting, I hate that word, preventing the father from seeing his child because he don't pay child support. Well, there's not an entry fee to see your child. You know what I'm saying? You're not putting the child on layaway.
Right.
It's like if you sit back and listen to that, it's like, so is it a pay as you go? Like, before I can see him, I gotta bring him some sneakers. I gotta hand you $500. Like, how is this? What are we doing?
Right.
So I think that's the case. Of course, there are very legitimate situations where I'm pretty sure that women become frustrated because they are trying to raise their child or children on their own, and financially, he's just not contributing. Right. But I do believe there are situations also because of emotion, once again, hurt feelings or what have you. That it's used as a weapon, unfortunately, and it always hurts the child. she may get some serious gratification out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, the child is hurt. And it's something I don't understand, quite honestly.
I agree 100%. And so what I was going to say, because we always have to put our little Surgeon General warning whenever anything is said. I want to make sure that I express that child support is important,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the mother or the father that is the non-custodial parent. That really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
The children should be supported, not just financially, but emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, all of that. And so that component is important. However, it's like, are you going to child support because you're trying to hurt the father?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that there are all of these punitive measures that happens when there's a child support case filed. Have you done your due diligence to work out some type of agreement outside of the court system before going directly to child support, when you know that, especially for Black men, the overall objective of this system is to incarcerate or to murder? You know what I mean? So in the context of child support, if the objective is to incarcerate, then it makes sense that as soon as an amount is awarded, there's back pay that's immediately added on from the date of the initial filing,
So
as opposed to the date
in the red.
You enter in the red. Plus, there's interest that accrues on that balance. You know what I mean? So the amount that's being awarded is based on your income. And depending upon whether your income is high or low would determine if anything is being paid on the interest or the arrearage.
Mm-hmm.
There are some situations where if you don't make enough money, your monthly payment is simply the support itself, and it's not going towards any of that. So there's interest accruing, and the interest is based upon the balance. And so you're going deeper and deeper into the hole, and it comes to a point where that balance then threatens your driver's license, threatens your freedom. And so it's like, okay, are we actually, is the system actually set up in order for the child to be provided for, and figuring out the best way for that child to be provided for? Or is the or is it more about incarcerating the fathers or the non-custodial parent, within the context of, Black folks?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
And I'm glad you said that, because I want to have a sister soldier moment for a second. Because as you were talking, what I was thinking was, this all folds in and rolls in together with how the system is set up. So in terms of government assistance, it's set up in a way, and was originated in a way, as hopefully a lot of people know, that if you as a woman, or even as a family unit, apply for government assistance, a male is not allowed to be in that home, right? So that means that it's set up to say you have two choices. You can either continue to struggle financially and stay together as a family unit, or the mother and children can remain in that home and get government assistance, and all of you can eat, and all of you can have a roof over your head, and all of you can have assistance for all of your utilities and everything that you need. He's on his own. So we have, for all intents and purposes, broken up your family.
Yeah.
Okay. We've set that up. So then what we're going to do is say, now that we've done that, we're going to set up a system so that, there's child support now. So you have these children, And so even though you're getting government assistance, you still need some support.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been trying to get support from him. He's out trying to find a job, trying to find a place to lay his head.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're telling you, oh, well, he's not trying hard enough. He's
Right.
not doing what he's supposed to do. We have a system now, child
Right.
support. And all you
Right.
have to do is go and say, hey, I need some help with these kids. And he's going to be required to pay X amount of money to be determined by a judge.
Right.
And if he doesn't pay that money, he's going to go into debt. We're going to garnish his wages. We're going to
Yes.
take his driver's license, all those things that you said.
Yeah.
So that system all works together. So it's all of these things in place to, let's be real, to punish you for not having a family unit.
Yeah.
But we already said we don't want you to have a family unit in order for the government to assist you, because you need government assistance, because we already pushed you to need government assistance.
Right.
We've denied y'all jobs. We've denied y'all decent places to stay. We've denied you opportunity and education.
Yep.
Right? So that you need government assistance. And then after you need the government assistance, girl, okay.
But if you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
I can't afford bootstraps.
So I'm so glad that you said this, because this brought me to another question. So does our unwillingness to co-parent without government involvement assist the white supremacy movement?
Yes. Even if you haven't thought about it, even if if that never came to your mind, that never your intention, the answer is yes. Because think about it like this. If your child's father has never had any issues with the law, never been stopped, never been arrested, nothing, you have now gotten him involved with the system.
Right.
And again, I'm not trying to say it's not necessary sometimes. Of course it is sometimes, but it needs to be a last resort, not a first resort. And I honestly believe that a lot of times when mothers, I think especially young mothers, are getting information about what their resources are, that's pushed as a primary resource.
Right.
Not see if you guys can work it out. It's apply for this, apply for child support. And it's like, you take it at face value if you really don't know and you're trying to figure it out.
Right.
But again, it goes under that umbrella. And, I can sound old fashioned or whatever. Old school works. You say that. Right. Old school works. But it goes under that umbrella of functioning outside of being a family.
Yeah.
All of this, comes from the fact that you're not a family, and the government has absolutely positively been a part of it, in pushing it, in creating it, and taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's where my gripe is. I don't care what the situation is across the board. To me, the key to one of the keys to really thriving as a Black unit is to minimize the government influence in your life.
Absolutely.
Across the board. And there are situations where, you may be going through a difficult time financially and you may need assistance. You know what I mean? You may be going through something with the other parent of your child, and they're not assisting you, and you need help in order to get through it. That's not what we're talking about here. So I want to be clear about that. What I'm talking about is doing your due diligence to try to keep the government out of the situation Like, do you love your children more than you hate him? You know what I mean? Because if you love your children more than you hate him, then that means that you're going to do everything that you can to preserve his life. Because in preserving his life, that is a benefit to the children.
Right.
If the father is incarcerated, if the father is put in a position where he is threatened in some kind of way, that is a detriment, a direct detriment to the children. Side note, ladies, stop calling the police on your boyfriends and husbands just because you're mad at them about something.
Yeah.
Now,
and after
of course,
you bust them in the face.
Exactly. Now, let me go ahead because oh my gosh, she's telling people not to call the cops. Listen, if you are being physically harmed, if you feel like your safety is at risk, then of course 911
Reasonably.
is a tool, right? 911 is a tool for that. Okay. But if it's just you mad and you want to find some kind of way to punish him, and this is your way of punishing him is to call the cops, and then you say, oh, he got weed in his car and all of this kind of stuff. Like, we need to stop with the foolishness. We need to stop with the
It's
foolishness
not
because,
cute and it's not funny and it's not a game.
and it's very unsafe
Yeah.
because that could be the difference between life and death. And that is what's real. I will tell you, for the sake of transparency, all of my children are boys. And, the older ones are out of the house. But for the younger ones, what I think about is if if there were a medical emergency where we had to call 911 for somebody to get assistance, or if we had an intruder or something like that in the house, I would pause for a moment to consider whether I should call 911 when we aren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, just one of my children, he's what, 6'2", 6'3", about 300 pounds. He's a big dude. So if we had an intruder in the house, are the cops gonna come in here guns blazing and think that one of my children is the intruder and kill them?
Right.
Like, that's a real
It's
deal
real.
situation.
It's real.
That's and our white counterparts don't have to think about those types of things. So why would you invite a situation like that by calling the police as a punitive measure? Why would you invite a situation like that by using child support as a weapon?
Yeah.
Okay. That is just beyond that is beyond my comprehension.
Yeah. It all goes back to the emotion, the bitterness, the unfinished business, honestly, in terms of the relationship between the mother and father. It all comes down to that. Because if that was in a different place, all of this wouldn't happen. You know. Um, Yeah, and I'll touch more on that as we go further along. I think I'm gonna put that in my closing comments.
Okay.
But let's get to paternity, Father God. I did quite a bit of research, and I don't want to labor on it too long because it's a lot. But we want to kind of talk about men's rights in terms of paternity and in situations where women name men as the father of their children falsely, specifically on purpose. And rights that men have in terms of that. And from the research that I've seen, no man can be legally forced to take a paternity test. Meaning, for example, if a woman claims a man to be the father of her child and she wants to take him to court for child support, and he's like, I'm not the child's father. What happens is this, which is crazy. He can say, I'm not the father. And the judge can say, well, if you don't take the paternity test to prove you're not the father, she's going to get child support. So they can't legally force him to take the test, but they're forcing him to take the test.
For sure.
Wow. And on the flip side of that, if, let's say, for instance, he doesn't take the test and she gets child support, and somehow later on, he proves that he's not the father's child, I guess by maybe later taking the paternity test. It's possible, from what I've read, it's possible for there to be some legal action against the mother. I don't know if it includes locking her up in any way. It was very vague, quite honestly. But I guess depending on the place, he can go after the actual father if the father is known for back child support, but he cannot get that back child support from her. Or the child support, I'm sorry, that he's already paid.
Right. That's crazy to me.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Because the only person in that equation that knows whether there's a potential other father is the mother.
Right.
So in naming a father, you have already basically given potential intent to defraud if you know that you slept with somebody else within the window of conception.
Right.
But the only person that could potentially be held civilly liable for that would be the other male.
Yeah.
Who may not even know himself.
Exactly. The only all-knowing person in this scenario is the mother. She is the only person who knows all the ins and outs of everything. Who could possibly be the father and who could not possibly be the father. She's the only person who knows all of that for sure.
That is just crazy.
Yeah. And so just going through this, it's just very vague and just very loose in terms of what a man's rights are in that type of situation. And I want to go through just a few because I found this information about the law in terms of paternity by country. And where was it? Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is in Australia. The Victorian County Court in 2002 awarded Mr. McGill $70,000 compensation for damages and economic loss against his ex-wife as a result of DNA testing in 2000 that showed only one of 3 children he was paying support for were genetically his. That ruling was later overturned in 2005 by the Victorian Court of Appeal, finding that, quote, intent to deceive by the ex-wife had not been proven. Sorry, ma'am. Were you in possession of your vagina at all times?
Yeah.
Did you set her free for a night or so and do not know of her whereabouts?
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that something?
That is just crazy. That's crazy. My mind is blown. So this man has been led to believe for all these years and formed a bond, because it's not just about the finance, the financial part of it. I mean, finance is a big deal, but at the same time, he's formed bonds with these children, believing that they're his biological children.
Yeah.
And finding out that they aren't. She's the only person that would have known.
Yeah.
My mind is.
And that's in Australia. Okay. Canada.
I'm sure it's worse here too.
Yes.
But go ahead.
There are like several stories under the United States. Mr. Cornelio began paying child support for his ex-wife's twins after the couple separated in 1998. The former couple settled upon a joint custody agreement in 2002 that continued Mr. Cornelio's monetary child support for the twins. Shortly afterwards, Ms. Cornelia requested a reduction in visitation time along with an increase in support. So I don't want you to see them as much, but I want you to pay more money. Okay. Mr. Cornelio became suspicious of the paternity of the twins. A subsequent DNA test revealed, ta-da!
You are not.
You ain't, the baby's dead. A request was made by Mr. Cornelio to be excused from paying further child support, claiming to be the victim of misrepresentation or fraud when Ms. Cornelio failed to disclose the extramarital affair when he signed the 2002 joint custody agreement. Because that's the kicker. When they signed that agreement, that was her opportunity to be like, okay, all right, so
what had happened was
I let my vagina go for a weekend
on hiatus. That's what we call VH, vaginal hiatus.
Okay. So the Ontario Superior Court of Justice in 2008 ruled against the request to be excused or reimbursed for child support payments. Judge Van Rensburg, in deciding to deny the request, noted that Mr. Cornelio had wondered at the time of his separation if an affair by his ex-wife had actually been responsible for the twins. He said, quote, "It was not until access was interrupted and Ms. Cornelio commenced proceedings seeking increased child support that the respondent began pursuing this issue. The fact of that relationship, even if it has now become strained, is sufficient to require Mr. Cornelio to continue to contribute toward the children's material needs."
That is straight up bogus. That is so bogus.
You should have said something before. That's what he pretty much said.
Right.
You should have complained before.
So basically, as soon as you have the slightest inkling that vaginal hiatus has occurred, you need to say something.
Say something now or forever hold your peace. That's not supposed to work in terms of children. I don't know if y'all know.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't even know.
She came back with 2 whole babies from her hiatus.
I mean, like how you get to go have fun and somebody else pay for it? Literally.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's wild.
Let's see.
That is wild.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go through all of these because it's just too much. But
the bottom line is, fellas,
I don't care how mad she get. I don't care how offended she get. I don't care how much she clutch her pearls and her family members call you so and so. Ask for a DNA test.
100%. 100%. Yeah. To me, anything outside of marriage, you know, and even though you know shady things can happen in marriage too. Yeah. But I will say, if you are trusting and believing enough in this particular person in order to marry them, then I wouldn't suggest that.
Yeah.
Because that could create a whole other set of problems.
Yeah.
But if you are not married to this woman, you need to get a DNA test and do not sign a birth certificate prior to confirming paternity, because in a lot of states, once you sign that birth certificate, you are financially liable.
Yeah.
So, what
Which is
else can you
another
do?
crazy thing.
Right.
Is that from what I found is once you sign the birth certificate, even if you can come up with DNA proof that you are not the child's father, it's up to a judge to determine whether or not they're going to say, okay, you don't have to pay child support or not. A judge determines that.
That's wild.
Okay. So I don't get
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
would this be a good time for the brief break?
I think so. We need a break, don't
Okay. Oh my gosh, yes. My spirit is
we?
just troubled at the moment. But we wanted to take a brief break to introduce a new segment in our show, and it's called In Your Black Business. Today, we are featuring Red Rags Boutique based in Richmond, Virginia. They have unique and very, very affordable ladies' fashions, a great selection of handbags and purses, statement necklaces and earrings, and more.
They also now carry men's jewelry and messenger bags. Red Rags Boutique. Check them out at www.redragsboutique.com. They are a Black owned and operated family centered business.
Awesome. Shout out to Red Rags.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Back to the shenanigations.
yeah, shenanigans. um, and this is again, this is just posing a question because, of course, we'd have to check statistics and all of this to correctly answer this question. So this is posing a question: how often do you think women lie about paternity, and how often do women, you think, make it difficult for a father to see his child?
Oh, Lord.
You
Well, as far as
think it's the norm, or do you think it's the exception, or somewhere in between?
I think it's more of the norm,
Mm.
unfortunately, than the exception. There are too many people that I personally have known, and there's like millions and millions of people that I don't know.
Right.
So, there's so many people that I have known, male or female, that have either um, been lied to about
Hmm.
paternity, that have had child support used as a weapon or the child been used as a pawn. Like, I couldn't even begin to count how many how many people that I have known that has been either on the receiving or the giving end
Mm.
of those types of shenanigans.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, I honestly don't know firsthand in terms of, I can't think of anyone, um, honestly, that I've known on the giving or receiving end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just know of conversations that I've heard. I
Mm-hmm.
know what has been pushed in terms of in the media, quite honestly, of how this is how Black folks behave. Just to
Right.
be real, this is how Black
Yeah.
folks behave when you have children outside of marriage. Y'all just act a monkey donkey fool. um you know it's true.
MDF. Okay.
That's right. A monkey or a donkey, either way it's a fool. So, that's push,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to be call out anybody, but that's part of the reason why I just hate Jerry Springer and Maury Povich with a passion.
Mhm.
Um, they have made so much money off of Black folks. Yes, people say, well, there are white people on there too. Yeah, sparingly.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither
It's
here or
un-
there.
it's unfortunate that we give them the material. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because if we were handling ourselves properly, then we wouldn't be in these positions
Yeah.
to have to, where paternity would be in question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just a side note, I can't tell you how many times I have seen, whether it's Maury or paternity court or something like that, where the woman has basically called him everything but a child of God, prior to the test results being read, because she's 1,000% sure that he's the father. And then once it's shown that he's not the father, she too busy doubled over in the fetal position up under in armchair to apologize to the man,
or running to the back.
Right. You know what I mean? It's like, come on now. You have taken this man and potentially, a romantic partner, potentially family members, you know what I mean? All of these people that you have taken through all of these changes because you claim that you're 1,000% sure, all the while knowing that there were other potential fathers in the mix, and then you don't even give the man an apology for turning his life upside down.
And on top of that, after you run backstage, someone comes backstage to console you.
Right.
Really? You're consoling her. And then if the dude is on stage celebrating, don't do that. That's insensitive.
But I think
Twilight Zone are we in?
It's crazy. But part of the problem was she was getting too much consoling. And that's why she in the situation she is. It's just it's too much.
I want us to take control, honestly, Black people, of this and create a different narrative of ourselves. I really do, because I know it's complicated in terms of getting ourselves out of the situation of having broken families, that there are a lot of components I understand in terms of that. But in terms of how we behave, we have complete control of that. How we react when relationships fall apart and there are children involved, we are completely in control of that. And we have the power to change that narrative. I want to see Black women truly conduct ourselves as the queens we want to be called, the queens we want to be considered, the magic we want to be considered. Because in all areas, we're really not conducting ourselves as such. Let's just be real. And we have control of that. And this comes back around to what we've been talking about from our very first podcast, is we have to show some love and some respect to our Black men. And we have to show love and respect to ourselves.
Well, it's going to be somebody, but what about the women? But what about the women? It's like, can we just digest that our men have been exploited?
Right.
Our men have been hunted. Our men have been slaughtered. Our men have been incarcerated. Like, we don't have to always have our pain in the forefront. By saying that a Black man is mistreated, it doesn't take away the fact that a Black woman has been mistreated also.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's the same, you got to put it in the same circle with Black Lives Matter. Well, all lives matter. Look, you know what I'm saying? It's in that same vein.
Because that's, in essence, that is what you are doing when, if we're having a show specifically about a Black woman's pain, and a brother then says, well, what about Black men? It's no different than saying all lives matter.
Exactly.
We're right now, we are talking about how women's actions can be detrimental to a Black man, and how the system, how Black women can sometimes utilize the system to be punitive to the Black man. That this is the context of this particular episode.
Yeah.
And so we're not gonna all lives matter this situation when we're talking about our Black men being exploited in this way.
Absolutely. And you know, you can let me know if you agree or don't on this, but I think that we do agree that this podcast is about not only celebrating each other as Black women, but holding each other accountable as Black women and saying, what can we do differently? What can we do better? Because it's not okay to only talk about Black girl magic and Black women are so strong and Black women are this, and then not talk about, okay, but what do we need to do differently? And how can we uplift our brothers? Because you can't on one hand be like, well, Black women can do it all. Black women are magic and Black women are strong. And then we start talking about Black men. What about the struggles we have? What is it? Are you magic? Are you strong? What are you?
I think it was Joyce Meyer that said you can't be powerful and pitiful at the same time.
Girl, that sounds like something she would say too.
Pick one.
I like Pick that. One.
What are you going to be? Yeah, it's real. Pick one.
I like that. So, you know, again, if you haven't noticed, we are strong advocates for lifting up our Black men, supporting our Black men, supporting each other, uplifting each other, absolutely. And using that to support our Black men and calling out foolishness when need be. You know, that's just really what it comes down to. I think we're going to end up being one of those podcasts where we get on your last nerve. Or you like, yes.
Right.
There's not going to be much in between. And I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it too.
I'm okay with that. All I ask is that you listen and consider with an open mind.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think in our community we do a lot of just passing down belief systems from generation to generation without ever questioning why, without ever doing any type of critical thinking as to why we're doing it. You know what I mean? My parent and my parents' parent and all of this, they believed this. They were Democrats, they were Republicans, they were Christian, they were Muslim. So this is what I'm gonna do. And not even taking into consideration for yourself, what's the best thing for you? What's the best thing for your family? Why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I think these things are okay or not okay?
Yeah. So I want to close out and have each of us answer these questions. What is our responsibility? Try this again. What is our responsibility as Black women to Black men and to ourselves regarding paternity issues?
Well, I think it is our responsibility to let a Black man know if there are possibilities of someone else being the father, and giving them every opportunity to find that out, to find out the actual truth. And once the child is in play, and and they, move forward in the co-parenting, that there actually is a co-parenting plan, and that you honor that plan, and that plan not be based upon how you're feeling that day, that you actually stand true to your word and stand true to the commitment that you have to your children, because it's not even necessarily about the other person, but you have a commitment to your children to protect them at all costs. So honoring that commitment to your child, to be in the healthiest co-parenting situation that has minimal or no government involvement if possible.
Yeah. I agree. And oh Lord, hold on. I'm going to make these, I guess, more simplified and concise points. If I can scroll back. All right. So, make informed choices about with whom we reproduce. Caps in informed. Accept the consequence.
That's Junie. That's Junebug. That's that's Junebug from over down Paris Hallway. Nah, that ain't information. That ain't information, okay?
That ain't even his government name.
Oh, he got the Cadillac with the gangster white walls. That ain't information.
Kim, I'm trying.
My bad. I'm done. I'm done.
To end with some decorum.
Okay. Thus and such and so forth. Continue, Lady Lisa.
Okay. Accept the consequences for promiscuous behavior that results in getting pregnant and not knowing who the father is. Mm-hmm. Be honest about who the father of your child is, despite who you might want it to be. Make every effort to... Why does this keep moving? Sorry. Technical difficulty. Sorry. Make every effort to foster your child's relationship with their father. Show your child's father dignity and respect, just as you would expect him to show you. Those are my concise points.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Now, what responsibility do Black men have in protecting themselves and their rights as men and as fathers? What do you think?
They also need to do their due diligence in finding out who it is that they're sharing their seed with. Just because something has a nice frame on it does not mean that that is someone that you should be exchanging energy with. Yeah. Because a big behind, I don't think is a fair exchange for a lifetime of pain and stress. Once you find out that if there is a child in question, you have a responsibility to find out if that child is yours. Once it's determined that that child is yours, you need to be responsible for that child financially, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, period. Yeah. No justifications, no exceptions, no excuses. It has nothing to do with the mother and everything to do with the child.
Boom. You covered it. Mm-hmm. And I will make my concise points. Make informed choices about with whom you reproduce. All caps, informed. Accept the consequences for promiscuous behavior that results in possibly impregnating a woman or women. Be honest about the possibility of being a father, despite whether you want to be or not. Make every effort to have a relationship with your child and show your child's mother dignity and respect, just as you would expect her to show you.
Boom goes the cannon.
So, beautiful. Pretty much the same points both ways.
Yeah.
Take responsibility for you.
Same rules apply to men and women?
Oh, no.
Where they do that
at? They do that here. Okay. On Black Together. I walk in her shoe. All right.
Ding, 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 yay.
That being said, this is going to wrap up our show. Thank you all for staying with us all this time. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to NERDSoul for allowing us to be on this platform. Check us out every week on Fridays. Also check out me and NERDSoul once again on Tuesdays and on Fridays. And then he'll be on Beats Vibes Life on Wednesdays. So bye, y'all.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.